My friend, let me tell you a secret that most people don't realize when they try to speak English fluently. It's not about perfect grammar, it's not about memorizing thousands of rules, and it's not about sounding like a native speaker. The real secret lies in your confidence, your mindset, and your courage to open your mouth and speak, even if it's not perfect. Think about it. When you were a child learning your first language, did you care about grammar? No, you just spoke. You made mistakes, and you learned as you went along. The same is true for English. Mistakes are not a sign of weakness. They are proof that you are trying, proof that you are growing. Too many people stay silent because they are afraid of being judged, afraid someone will laugh at them, afraid of not being perfect. But here's the truth. No one becomes fluent by staying silent. Fluency comes only when you dare to speak, when you practice again and again, when you value progress more than perfection. You see, English is not just a language, it's a tool to connect with people, to share your ideas, to create opportunities. And just like any tool, the more you use it, the sharper it becomes. Don't wait for the perfect moment to start speaking, because that moment will never come. The perfect time is now, with the words you already know, with the courage you already have. The people who succeed are not those who know the most grammar rules, but those who never gave up, who practiced even when it was uncomfortable, who spoke even when they were nervous. Fluency is not about having the best vocabulary, it's about having the strongest determination. So the next time you hesitate, remember this: nobody remembers the small mistakes you make, but they will remember your confidence, your passion, and your courage to express yourself. Speak from your heart, and the words will follow. That is the real secret to speaking English fluently. My friend, let's talk about something that stops so many people from ever becoming fluent in English: the fear of making mistakes. You see, from the moment we begin learning, society teaches us that mistakes are bad. At school, you write the wrong answer and it gets marked with red ink. At work, if you make a mistake, you might get criticized. Over time, this idea becomes so deeply rooted in our minds that we start to believe mistakes are failures. And when it comes to learning English, that fear grows even stronger. People stay quiet, not because they don't know the words, but because they are terrified of saying them the wrong way. They are afraid someone will laugh, or someone will correct them, or someone will think less of them. But here's the truth you need to embrace with all your heart. Mistakes are not your enemies, they are your teachers. Think about how you learned your first language. As a child, you did not know grammar rules, sentence structures, or vocabulary lists. You simply tried. You said words, sometimes wrong, sometimes funny, and sometimes completely made up. But did that stop you? No. You kept repeating, you kept imitating, and slowly, those mistakes turned into mastery. Nobody told you to be perfect. Nobody scolded you for every wrong word. You were allowed to make mistakes because that was the only way to learn. So why is it, as adults, we suddenly fear mistakes? Why do we think we must speak flawlessly, without errors, before we even begin? That thinking is the real barrier, not the language itself. Every mistake you make while speaking English is a sign that you are trying. It's proof that you are not sitting silently. It's proof that you are practicing. It's proof that you are moving forward. Imagine two people, one who never speaks because they don't want to be wrong, and another who speaks with courage, even if their words are broken. Who do you think learns faster? The one who dares to speak, of course, because every time they speak, they discover something new. They hear how the other person replies, they notice where they got stuck, they realize what word they didn't know. That moment of realization becomes a lesson, and that lesson sticks far deeper than any grammar exercise ever could. Mistakes are not a wall blocking your progress. They are the stepping stones that guide you forward. Each wrong sentence teaches you the right one. Each mispronounced word trains your tongue for the correct sound. Each pause, each struggle, each small failure is shaping your fluency. You cannot build fluency in silence. You can only build it in action, and action always carries mistakes with it. That is how growth works. Now, let's go deeper. Why do people remember mistakes more than success? Because mistakes create emotional impact. Imagine this: you are speaking English with someone, and you say something that makes them laugh. At first, you might feel embarrassed, but later, when you think about it, that moment sticks in your memory. And the next time you speak, you won't make the same mistake again. That embarrassing moment turned into a permanent lesson. In fact, the mistakes you feel most embarrassed about are usually the ones that make you improve the fastest. They hit you harder, and because of that, they push you to grow. Fluency is not built in your comfort zone. It is built in those uncomfortable moments when you stumble, when you feel nervous, when you make a mistake and still decide to continue. That decision to keep going despite the mistake is what separates those who remain stuck from those who rise. It's not about avoiding mistakes, it's about learning from them. Every fluent speaker you admire once stood exactly where you are now, struggling, nervous, making countless mistakes. The only difference is they didn't quit. They didn't let mistakes silence them. They used mistakes as fuel to improve. You must shift your perspective. Instead of asking, "What if I make a mistake?" ask yourself, "What will I learn from this mistake?" Because every time you speak English, you are in a classroom. Not a classroom with a blackboard or a teacher, but a classroom called life. Every conversation you have, every sentence you try, every error you make is part of your learning process. And the best part is, the world is more forgiving than you think. Most people are not laughing at you. Most people admire you for trying. In fact, when you speak English, even imperfectly, you are showing courage that many others don't have. You are stepping out of your comfort zone, and that alone makes you stronger. Let me tell you something powerful. Mistakes carry lessons that perfection can never teach. If you spoke flawlessly from the start, you would never notice your weak points. You would never know where to improve, and you would never feel the joy of progress. But when you make a mistake, you see exactly where you need to grow. That is a gift, not a punishment. Imagine mistakes as mirrors. They reflect back the areas you need to work on. Without those mirrors, you would walk in the dark, never knowing how close or far you are from fluency. So the next time you hesitate, the next time you feel afraid, remember this: mistakes are not evidence that you can't do it. They are evidence that you are already doing it. Every mistake you make today becomes a story of progress tomorrow. Don't let fear steal your voice. Speak boldly, even if the words come out broken, because broken words are far more powerful than perfect silence. When we talk about fluency, most people imagine something close to perfection. They think fluency means speaking without a single pause, without a single mistake, without a single moment of hesitation. And because of this idea, many learners wait and wait. They keep studying grammar books, memorizing long vocabulary lists, watching countless videos, yet they still don't open their mouths to speak. Why? Because they are waiting for the day they will finally be perfect. But let me tell you a truth that can change your entire journey. Fluency doesn't come from perfection. It comes from practice, real practice, consistent practice, daily practice. The kind of practice where you speak, even if your sentences are broken, even if you forget words, even if you make mistakes. That practice is the only road to fluency. Think of it this way. Imagine someone wants to learn how to swim. They can read books about swimming, watch hundreds of tutorials, even memorize all the techniques. But if they never step into the water, will they ever learn to swim? Of course not. Swimming is learned in the water, not in theory. In the same way, English is learned in the act of speaking, not only by studying. You can spend years reading grammar, but if you never open your mouth, fluency will remain a dream. The moment you start speaking, imperfectly, clumsily, nervously, that's the moment fluency begins. Practice shapes fluency because practice creates habits. Every time you speak English, you are training your brain to think in a new rhythm, to connect words faster, to organize thoughts differently. At first, it feels heavy and slow. You have to think about every word, every phrase, every sentence. But with repeated practice, your brain begins to adjust. It starts building shortcuts, patterns, and connections. Suddenly, words that once felt stuck in your head start flowing out naturally. That's the power of practice. It transforms effort into instinct. Now, here's where many people get trapped. They compare themselves with others. They hear someone speak fluently and they think, they are so perfect, I can never be like them. What they don't see is the years of practice behind that fluency. Nobody is born fluent in a second language. Fluency is not a gift, it is a result. And that result is built through hours, days, and years of practice. Behind every smooth speaker is a long history of broken sentences, forgotten words, and countless conversations that didn't go as planned. So if you are still struggling, don't feel discouraged. You are simply in the practice stage, and that stage is necessary. Let's also talk about the fear of repetition. Many learners feel bored repeating the same words and phrases, but repetition is the mother of mastery. When you practice something again and again, it becomes automatic. Think about how you drive a car, ride a bicycle, or use your phone. At one time, these tasks required effort and concentration, but now you don't even think about them. Why? Because repetition turned them into habits. The same rule applies to English. Every time you practice speaking, even if it's the same phrases, you are carving fluency into your brain. Repetition is not wasting time, it's building strength. Practice also teaches you something that books never can: rhythm and confidence. When you speak often, you develop a natural flow. You stop translating in your head and start thinking directly in English. Your tongue gets used to the sounds, your ears get sharper at listening, and your mind learns to form sentences faster. This is fluency, not perfection, but flow. And flow is built by practice alone. You see, perfection is an illusion. Even native speakers are not perfect. They make grammar mistakes, they pause, they forget words, they say and ah. If perfection were the requirement, nobody in this world would be considered fluent. The goal is not to be perfect. The goal is to communicate, to express yourself, to be understood. And the more you practice, the more natural that communication becomes. Now imagine this. If you speak one sentence today, you are one step closer. If you speak 10 sentences tomorrow, you are 10 steps closer. If you make practice a part of your daily life, your progress will surprise you. It's like planting a seed. At first you don't see much change, but with daily watering, with consistent care, slowly it grows. And one day, without realizing it, you find yourself speaking freely, confidently, fluently. That day will come, not through perfection, but through practice. Let me remind you, fluency is not built in silence. Silence only builds fear. Practice builds fluency. Every word you speak, no matter how small, is an investment. Every mistake you make is an investment. Every conversation you try is an investment. And with enough investment, fluency becomes your reward. So the next time you feel nervous, the next time you think you need to be perfect before you speak, stop yourself. Remember, perfection is not the destination. Progress is. And progress comes only when you practice. When we think about fluency, most people immediately think about words, grammar, and pronunciation. But let me tell you something powerful. Fluency is not just about language. It is about confidence. Confidence is the bridge that carries your thoughts into words. You might know hundreds of words, you might have studied grammar for years, but if you don't have the courage to use them, they remain locked inside your mind. On the other hand, someone with fewer words but strong confidence will appear far more fluent because they are not afraid to express themselves. That is the hidden truth many learners ignore. Fluency is built on confidence. Confidence is the key that opens your mouth when fear wants to keep it shut. Think about this. How many times have you known what to say in English, but you kept silent because you doubted yourself? You thought, what if I say it wrong? What if people laugh? What if I embarrass myself? In that moment, your problem was not English. It was confidence. Fear took control, and you chose silence instead of speaking. But silence does not build fluency. Only confidence does. Confidence is like a muscle. It doesn't appear overnight. It grows with use. The first time you speak English in front of others, your heart might race, your hands might shake, your voice might feel weak. But that's normal. The same thing happens when you try anything new. The second time, it feels a little easier. The third time, even easier. With each attempt, your confidence muscle grows stronger. And as your confidence grows, so does your fluency. The two are deeply connected. Without confidence, knowledge stays trapped. With confidence, even limited knowledge becomes powerful. Now let's look at children again. Why do they learn languages so quickly? Is it because they know grammar better than adults? No. It's because they are fearless. A child doesn't care if they say something wrong. They just speak, laugh, and keep going. That fearless confidence allows them to practice freely, and that practice turns into fluency. Adults, on the other hand, overthink every word. They wait for perfection. They fear judgment, and that fear kills their confidence. To truly become fluent, you must learn to think like a child again, brave enough to try, even when it's not perfect. Confidence also changes how others see you. Imagine two people giving the same answer in English. One says it with hesitation, eyes down, voice trembling. The other says it with energy, eye contact, and certainty. Even if the grammar isn't perfect, who do you think will leave a stronger impression? The second person, of course. People are drawn to confidence more than accuracy. They remember your passion, your energy, your presence, not the tiny mistakes you made. This is why some people with limited vocabulary still manage to inspire, lead, and connect powerfully in English because their confidence makes their words shine. But how do you build this confidence? The answer is simple: by facing your fear, not avoiding it. Confidence doesn't come from waiting until you are ready. It comes from doing it scared. The first time you introduce yourself in English, do it scared. The first time you share your opinion in English, do it scared. The first time you speak to a stranger in English, do it scared. Every time you choose courage over fear, your confidence grows. And slowly, what once felt terrifying will start to feel natural. Another secret about confidence is this: it grows when you celebrate small victories. Many learners are so focused on their weaknesses that they forget to notice their progress. Maybe today you spoke 3 sentences without stopping. That's progress. Maybe you tried a new word today. That's progress. Maybe you joined a conversation even if you only spoke a little. That's progress. Every small step you take deserves to be celebrated because each step is building your confidence brick by brick until you have the foundation of fluency. Confidence is also about mindset. If you see English as a challenge you will never conquer, you will feel weak. But if you see English as an opportunity to grow, to connect, to explore, you will feel motivated. Your thoughts create your reality. If you tell yourself, "I am not good at English," your confidence will collapse. But if you tell yourself, "I am learning, I am improving, and I am brave enough to try," your confidence will rise. Fluency begins in the mind before it appears on the tongue. And remember this: even the most fluent speakers were once beginners. They too felt nervous, they too made mistakes, they too struggled. The only reason they sound fluent now is because they had the confidence to keep going when it was uncomfortable. Confidence was their fuel, and practice was their road. If they could do it, so can you. So don't let fear hold you back. Confidence is not about speaking perfect English. It's about speaking with courage, with belief in yourself, with the determination to be heard. The more confident you are, the more fluent you will become. And the more you speak, the more that confidence will grow. So many people make the mistake of treating English as if it's only a subject in school, something to study, memorize, and score marks in. They approach it the same way they approach mathematics or history, with textbooks, with exams, with pressure to be correct. But English is not just a subject, it is a tool. And when you begin to see it as a tool instead of a subject, your entire learning journey changes. A subject is something you study to pass a test, but a tool is something you use to build your life, your career, your relationships, and your dreams. Think about this. When you pick up a hammer, your goal is not to master the hammer. Your goal is to build something with it: a house, a table, a chair. The hammer is only the tool. The same is true for English. Your goal is not to master every rule, every exception, every tiny piece of grammar. Your goal is to use English to build something greater, to connect with people across the world, to share your ideas, to access opportunities that were once out of reach. English is not the destination, it is the bridge. But here's where most learners get stuck. They spend years learning English in classrooms, filling notebooks with grammar exercises, memorizing vocabulary lists. But when the time comes to actually use English in real life, they freeze. Why? Because they have been treating English as a subject, not as a tool. They studied to pass, not to communicate. They memorized rules, but never applied them in real conversations. And that's why, even after years of learning, so many people feel they cannot speak fluently. If you truly want to be fluent, you must start using English as a living tool. Don't keep it trapped in books. Use it in conversations. Use it to watch movies, to read articles, to share your thoughts on social media, to connect with people from other countries. Every time you use English in real life, you sharpen your tool. Just like a blade becomes sharper the more you use it, your English becomes stronger the more you practice with it in daily life. Think about technology. When you learn how to use a computer, your goal is not to memorize every single detail of how it's built inside. Your goal is to use it for work, communication, creativity. You learn by doing. You click, you type, you explore. That's how you become comfortable with it. English works in exactly the same way. You don't need to know every technical rule, you just need to start using it. The more you use it, the more natural it becomes. English, at its heart, is a tool for connection. It is a language spoken by millions of people across the globe. It allows you to break barriers, to step outside the limits of your hometown or your country, and to reach the world. It gives you access to knowledge because so much information, books, research, courses, is available in English. It gives you access to opportunities because so many companies and organizations look for people who can communicate globally. It gives you access to people because with English you can make friends from any part of the planet. Isn't that powerful? But here's the catch. A tool only works when you use it. Imagine buying a phone but never turning it on. Would it help you? Of course not. English is the same. You can spend years owning it in theory, but unless you use it daily, it won't serve its purpose. Don't let English stay locked in your notebooks. Take it out, use it, and let it help you build the life you want. When you shift your mindset from English as a subject to English as a tool, learning becomes exciting instead of stressful. Suddenly, grammar mistakes don't feel like failures. They feel like part of the process of using your tool. Vocabulary isn't just a list to memorize, it's a set of keys that unlock new doors in conversations. Speaking isn't something to fear, it's something to practice, like handling a new device until it feels comfortable. And here's the most important part. A tool doesn't have to be perfect to be useful. If you have a slightly worn-out hammer, it can still build a house. If you have an old phone, it can still connect you to people. Likewise, even if your English is not perfect, it can still connect you. It can still create opportunities. It can still serve its purpose. Waiting until your English is perfect before you use it is like waiting until you own the world's best hammer before you start building. You'll never begin. The tool you have right now is enough to start. So don't ask yourself, is my English perfect? Instead, ask, am I using the English I already know? Because that's where the real transformation happens. When you begin to use English in your daily life, not as a subject to study, but as a tool to build, you will notice your fluency growing naturally. And with each use, your confidence will rise, your skills will sharpen, and your opportunities will expand. One of the biggest traps that English learners fall into is waiting. They keep telling themselves, I will speak when I am ready. I will speak when I know enough words. I will speak when I am perfect. And so they wait. Days turn into months, months turn into years, and fluency still feels far away. But here is the truth. The perfect time will never come. If you are waiting for the day when your grammar is flawless, your accent is perfect, and your vocabulary is endless, you will wait forever. Fluency does not appear on some magical future day. It begins the moment you start using what you already have. Think about life. How many people dream of starting a business, writing a book, or chasing their passion, but they keep saying, I'll do it when the time is right. The time never feels right because fear always whispers excuses. The same thing happens with English. You think you need one more course, one more book, one more video before you can start speaking. But in reality, you already have enough to begin. You already know enough words to form sentences. You already understand enough grammar to communicate. What you lack is not knowledge, it is action, and action cannot wait for perfection. Imagine a child learning to walk. Do they wait until their legs are strong enough, their balance is perfect, and their steps are flawless? No, they just try. They stumble, they fall, they get up, and they keep moving. If they waited for the perfect moment, they would never learn to walk at all. Your English is the same. If you wait for perfection, you'll remain stuck. But if you start now with the knowledge you already have, you will stumble, yes, but those stumbles will make you stronger. Another danger of waiting for the perfect time is that it creates fear. The longer you wait, the more nervous you become. You build up English in your mind as something huge, scary, and impossible. But the moment you start speaking, you realize it's not as frightening as you thought. People understand you. They don't care about your small mistakes. They listen to your message. The fear you carried for so long suddenly feels unnecessary. That's why starting now is so important, because action destroys fear. Waiting also robs you of opportunities. How many chances have you missed because you thought, I'll speak English later? Maybe there was a chance to make a new friend, to impress in an interview, to join an international conversation, but you stayed silent. Each time you wait, you lose a moment you will never get back. Life will not pause until you are ready. Opportunities appear and disappear. If you want to grow, you must grab them with the English you have now, not with the English you hope to have someday. Fluency is not built in the future. It is built in the present. Every sentence you speak today makes tomorrow easier. Every mistake you make today teaches you a lesson for tomorrow. Every small conversation today brings you one step closer to fluency tomorrow. The perfect time is not next week, not next year, not someday. It is now. And here's something powerful to remember. Progress creates confidence. The more you wait, the less progress you make, and the less confident you feel. But the moment you take action, even if it's small, you begin to feel proud of yourself. That pride fuels your motivation. That motivation pushes you to practice more. And with more practice, your fluency grows. But it all begins with a choice, the choice to stop waiting. Sometimes people say, "But I don't know enough words yet. What if I get stuck?" That's okay. Even with a small vocabulary, you can express yourself. Use simple words. Use gestures. Use your tone, your smile, your energy. Communication is not about using big, complicated words. It's about sharing your message. And every time you share your message, no matter how simple, you are practicing fluency. With time, your vocabulary will grow naturally, but if you wait for a big vocabulary before you start, you'll never begin. The truth is, there is no such thing as a perfect moment. The best speakers, the most confident people, all began when they were unprepared. They didn't wait for perfect. They created progress out of imperfection. And that's what you must do too. Start today. Use the words you know. Speak with the grammar you have. Express your ideas with the confidence you can build. Because the more you do it, the more natural it becomes. So, don't waste another day thinking, "Someday I will be fluent." Replace it with, "Today I will take one step closer to fluency." Because fluency is not a single event, it's a journey. And that journey can only begin when you stop waiting for perfection and start speaking with courage. If there is one quality that separates people who become fluent from those who remain stuck forever, it is not intelligence, not vocabulary size, not grammar knowledge. It is persistence. The ability to keep going no matter how difficult it feels, no matter how many mistakes you make, no matter how slow the progress seems. Fluency belongs to those who never give up. The journey of learning English is not a straight road. It is filled with ups and downs, moments of confidence and moments of doubt. There will be days when you feel proud of yourself for speaking smoothly, and there will be days when you feel frustrated because you can't find the right words. Some days you will feel unstoppable, and other days you will feel stuck. This is normal. This is the process. But here's the secret. Those who succeed are not the ones who never struggle. They are the ones who refuse to quit during the struggle. Think about anything great in life. Athletes don't become champions after one training session. Musicians don't become masters after playing for 1 week. Success in any field requires years of practice, failure, and persistence. Language learning is no different. If you quit every time it feels hard, you will never reach fluency. But if you push through the hard days, if you keep speaking even when you feel embarrassed, if you keep practicing even when you don't see instant results, you will get there. The problem is that many people give up too soon. They try for a few weeks, maybe a few months, and when they don't see dramatic improvement, they decide, "English is not for me." But the truth is, you were not failing. You were still in the process. Fluency is not built in days. It is built in consistent effort over time. Quitting too early is like planting a seed and giving up before it has time to grow. You don't see the roots forming beneath the soil, but that doesn't mean nothing is happening. The same is true for your English. Just because you don't see big changes right away doesn't mean progress isn't being made. Every word you practice, every mistake you correct, every small step you take is building your foundation. Persistence also means being patient with yourself. Many learners are too hard on themselves. They expect to speak like a native in 1 year, and when they can't, they feel like failures. But fluency is not a race. Everyone learns at a different speed. What matters is not how fast you go, but that you keep moving forward. Even if your progress feels slow, it is still progress. Every step forward, no matter how small, is valuable. Another reason persistence is so important is because motivation comes and goes. At the beginning, you feel excited, full of energy, ready to practice every day. But after a while, that excitement fades. You get busy, you get tired, you lose interest. This is the point where most people give up, but if you rely only on motivation, you will never last. Instead, you need persistence, the discipline to keep going even when you don't feel like it. Motivation may start the journey, but persistence is what finishes it. Persistence is also about bouncing back after failure. There will be times when you speak English and someone doesn't understand you. There will be times when you feel embarrassed because you made a mistake. There will be times when you freeze in the middle of a sentence and feel like giving up. But remember, every fluent speaker has gone through the same thing. They didn't reach fluency by avoiding failure. They reached it by failing, learning, and trying again. Failure is not the end of your journey. It is part of the journey. And persistence means getting back up every time you fall. Never giving up also means remembering why you started. Ask yourself, why do you want to speak English fluently? Is it to travel the world, to connect with more people, to grow in your career, to inspire others? Whatever your reason is, hold on to it. Because when the road feels difficult, your why will give you strength. When you remember the opportunities waiting for you, you will find the courage to keep going. There is something powerful about persistence. It transforms ordinary people into extraordinary achievers. The difference between someone who gives up and someone who becomes fluent is not talent, but persistence. If you refuse to quit, fluency becomes inevitable. It may take months, it may take years, but it will happen. The only way to truly fail is to stop trying. So don't let challenges break you. Don't let fear silence you. Don't let slow progress discourage you. Every time you feel like giving up, remind yourself that you have already come further than you think. You are learning, you are improving, and you are closer than you realize. Keep going, because the ones who keep going always win. My friend, fluency in English is not a mystery. It's not about being perfect, and it's not reserved only for the lucky few. It's about embracing your mistakes as teachers, practicing consistently instead of waiting for perfection, building confidence that shines brighter than grammar rules, using English as a tool to create opportunities, starting now without waiting for the perfect moment, and above all, never giving up no matter how long the journey takes. Remember, fluency is not a destination you arrive at in one day. It's a path you walk every single time you speak, every single time you practice, every single time you choose courage over fear. Don't let silence hold you back. Don't let doubt steal your dreams. You already have everything inside you to become fluent. It's your persistence, your courage, and your determination that will unlock it. So, speak boldly, speak with passion, speak with confidence. Your English doesn't need to be perfect. It needs to be alive. And when you keep going, one day you will look back and realize you are speaking fluently, not because you mastered every rule, but because you never stopped trying.